I failed because I couldn't manage my time on the exam.
I had only 30 minutes left to answer the last 60 questions.
I couldn't manage my time on the
I
exam.
couldn't manage my time on the exam.
I couldn't manage my time on the exam.
I couldn't manage my time.
Hello there, I am Sabri C. I am the instructor of the worldwide bestseller PMP Exam Prep course in Udemy. One of the biggest reasons for students not being able to pass the PMP exam is they just can't manage their time on the exam. They are studying for the PMP exam very hard, but since they don't have any time management strategy, they just fail. Since this is a very crucial topic, today I would like to talk about how to manage your time on the PMP exam. After watching this video, you will learn the exact time management strategies you need to follow for the PMP exam. Okay, as I said, you need to determine an effective time management strategy for the PMP exam. Actually, you should determine this strategy before the exam and apply it many times when solving practice exam questions. To determine a solid strategy, you need to know the structure of the PMP exam very well. You will get 180 questions on the exam, and you will have 230 minutes to answer these 180 questions. The exam is broken down into 3 parts having 60 questions each. Questions between the first question and the 60th question is the first part. Questions between 61st question and the 120th is the second part, and the questions between 121st and 180th is the third part. Between each part, you will get a 10-minute break. So, after completing part 1, you will get the first 10-minute break, and after completing part 2, you will get the second 10-minute break. These 10-minute breaks are not included in the 230 minutes. Therefore, if you include the breaks, you will be sitting for 250 minutes in total. After you finish question 60, you will be submitting your answers for the first part. Once you hit the submit button, the 10-minute break starts and you won't be able to turn back to the first part. This is also true for the second part too. I mean, when you click on the submit button, your second 10-minute break starts and you can't turn back to the previous parts. So, what does it mean? During the exam, you will have a box like this for each question. This is the Mark for Review box. When you click on this button, you will be marking that question so that you can review it before clicking on the submit button. For example, let's say you came to question 20 and you are not sure about if you should select option B or option D. You selected option B, but you would like to review this question after completing all the 60 questions for the first part. If you click on the Mark for Review button for question 20, then this question is marked for review and you can review this question before hitting the submit button. I mean, you can review any question before hitting the submit button, but marking a question will make you find that question easier. Here, I would like to underline before hitting the submit button. So, if you have marked questions like this for the first part, you can review them before hitting the submit button. But once you click on the submit button, your first break will start and you won't be able to turn back to these questions. Please don't forget. Okay, since we can't go back when we hit the submit button, we can assume each part as separate sub-exams. This is going to be the key idea when we determine our time management strategy. When taking your PMP exam, assume you will enter 3 different exams subsequently. Assume you have a time limit for each sub-exam and try to complete each exam by considering your imaginary time limit. This will make you manage your time easier because with this approach, you will have fewer questions to manage. Although you can determine these time limits by yourself, here is what I suggest. Try to complete the first and third parts in 75 minutes and try to complete the second part in 70 minutes. These durations are not equal to each other because during the first part, you might be nervous since it is an important exam for you, and since you studied hard, this may cause you to be stressful at the beginning, and this is so normal. I mean, lots of others are also facing the same situation too. I will create a video about how you can handle the stress in the exam in the future. Just subscribe to this channel and click on the bell icon to not miss that video. So, we added 5 minutes extra to the first part because being stressful may decrease your efficiency in the exam. When solving last questions, your efficiency might be decreased because of tiredness. I mean, solving this many questions may cause you to get tired when you are about to reach to the end, and we added an extra 5 minutes to the third part for this reason. Okay, if you add these durations, we get 220 minutes, but I said you will have 230 minutes to answer the 180 questions. This is 10 minutes less than what I suggest. Is there a mistake here? Well, it is not a mistake. You will use this 10 minutes as a buffer. This buffer can prevent you from completing the sub-exams late. Here is how it works. Let's say you completed the first part in 80 minutes. So you exceeded your imaginary time limit by 5 minutes. Since you have a 10-minute buffer, you can use 5 minutes from this buffer to compensate for the exceeded amount. Therefore, no need to worry about it. Then, let's say you completed the second part in 75 minutes. In other words, you again exceeded your time limit by 5 minutes. So, you will use the remaining 5-minute buffer to compensate for the exceeded amount. Now, since you don't have any buffers left, you need to be careful to complete the third part as you planned. As you see, this buffer gives you confidence and helps you manage your time in a more flexible way. Okay, here is another suggestion. Leave the last 10 minutes to review your marked questions. So, during the last 10 minutes of each part, turn back and review the questions of which you marked for review. Now, if you subtract the 10-minute reviews and the 5-minute extra durations for being stressed and being tired, you have 60 minutes for each part. In other words, you have 1 minute to solve each question. You should try to solve 60 questions in 60 minutes for each part. I recommend you check your progress every 10 questions. This will make you understand if you need to solve the remaining questions faster or not. Let's give an example so that you can understand this clearly. Let's say you started your exam. After solving the 10th question, you saw that you have spent 13 minutes. It seems like you are 3 minutes behind the schedule, but it is okay because remember, you have 5 minutes extra for the first part. So, keep continuing, but try to solve each question in 1 minute. You spent 12 minutes to solve the questions between 11th question and the 20th question. You also marked the 16th question for review. Here, please note that you shouldn't leave any question blank. Just pick up an answer even if you mark it for review. Because if anything goes wrong and if you can't come back to this question, this way you can have a 25% chance of picking up the correct answer. But if you leave it blank, you won't have this chance. So never leave any question blank in the exam. This is important. Now, you are 5 minutes behind the schedule. Again, this is okay. You are still using the 5 minute extra. So keep continuing. You did well until you get to the 40th question. You have spent 9 minutes up to the 30th and 11 minutes up to the 40th question. You marked 3 questions for review. Now, you realize that you have spent 15 minutes. Don't get stressed because you can use this extra 5 minutes from the buffer. Just try to speed up a little and try to complete the rest 10 questions in 10 minutes. You did well for the last 10 questions of the first part and solved the questions in 10 minutes. You also marked 2 questions for review. Now, you have 10 minutes to review the questions you marked. Let's go back to these questions and solve them all. Let's say you solved all the marked questions in 8 minutes and you feel you are ready to submit the first part. You have spent 78 minutes for this first part. This means you used 3 minutes from the 10-minute buffer. Now hit the submit button to start the 10-minute break. Once you hit the submit button, you won't be able to turn back to any of the first 60 questions. Here, although I said this was a 10-minute break, it is always possible to start the next part earlier. But I don't recommend this. I mean, using the full 10-minute break will refresh your mind, and you really need this for the PMP exam. Stand up and walk a little to let the oxygen go to your brain. You can drink coffee and eat something a little too. You can solve questions easier with a fresh mind. So use this 10-minute break to refresh your mind. Then continue your exam with the same manner I explained for the first part. Following this strategy will help you manage your time easier. So that's it for now. If you like this video, don't forget to click on the like button below. To not miss any videos about PMP certification in the future, just subscribe to this channel first, then click on the bell icon below. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.